Let's make it.
Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. Offensitation, sports information, hitting the airways, taking the nation. Sport all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays. Yeah.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Just Say the Truth. I am actually going to be your moderator tonight, mainly because Freddie is scared and running, and if the Lakers blow it, he doesn't want to be on here to hear the grief and hear the truth from myself, his fellow Lakers fan, who we're lucky enough to have with us in Jonathan from wonderful Southern California, where it's more than likely warm and great weather. Jonathan, how are you doing, brother?
Good. I'm doing well. You know, it's actually a kind of chilly night here in Southern California. It's been kind of overcast all day today. But,
now, Jonathan, I gotta ask you, since I'm in the Midwest and so is Joe. To you, what is chilly?
Chilly, I would say, is in the 60s, 50s.
All right, I'm out of here. I'm not listening to that.
Hey,
Jonathan, is 30 degrees where I'm at right now.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't know the bone chilling type of cold.
That's not bone chilling. That's chilly.
No.
That's not bone chilling.
Yeah, no. I don't know because I've never really experienced 30-degree weather. The only way we get that if we go up to the mountains.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
That's the only way we get that.
It's nothing for a bad winter when it drops into the negatives. When I tell you that is cold.
Yeah, it's no joke.
Yeah, like when you go from negatives to the 30s, that's when you see people in the Midwest like, oh man, it's shorts weather. Let's go.
I was wearing shorts the other day. It was 47 degrees.
Yep.
You guys are used to it, though. For us, I think we would have to put on layers because we're not used to that type of coldness.
Right. Yeah, and then Nate's lived pretty much everywhere, so I know Nate has definitely experienced it too. He lives up in Washington right now, but he also lived in Texas, which Texas, man, is that weather bipolar down in Texas.
It's bipolar here, too. We don't really get 4 seasons.
Yeah, I don't think most anywhere doesn't. I know in Texas it was hot one week, and then it was cold the next week, and then hot next week, and then cold again the next week.
Texas, Colorado, Oregon, and now Washington.
Yeah, so Nate's been pretty much everywhere.
Yes.
And then, of course, we also got another one of our gentlemen with us. We got Joe from also cold Pennsylvania, luckily, so he knows the struggle of the Midwest cold.
Yes.
And he knows Fred Rogers, too.
He does. He knows the great Fred Rogers. I also grew up watching him, even though I'm younger. I grew up watching Mr. Rogers a lot. So
this one says, "Won't you be my hater?" Though.
Yes,
I can respect that though. It's okay. As somebody who's a hater on many things, I can respect the shirt.
Right.
Thanks.
All right, gents. Let's kind of dive into it. So one of the things I do want to bring up, since I saw it here. We saw kind of a reemergence of Cam Newton last Sunday against a kind of beat up Arizona Cardinals team. This was something that the Panthers needed to kind of get rejuvenated. Cam, of course, the first time he touches the ball, he runs it into the end zone for a rushing touchdown. The next time he touches the ball, he throws it into the end zone for a touchdown. And it was announced earlier today that Cam is going to be the starting quarterback of the Panthers against the Washington football team. So I'm going to start with Jonathan. Do you see Cam Newton, if he's able to keep staying on track the way that he is, do you see this being kind of the second tour of Cam Newton? Do you see him winning the starting job back in Carolina and Sam Darnold just going to be a backup or getting traded?
Absolutely, I can see Cam Newton winning the starting job at the quarterback position. Look, the way he played last week was very impressive for a guy who's had the majority of the time off.
Mm-hmm.
This is a guy who's been, waiting for his chance to play again. Mm-hmm. Basically out of a job for quite some time, and to bounce back the way he has and to quickly reemerge and to the quarterback that we saw when he first came into the league early in his career, it's pretty incredible to see. So yes, I think he does and will win the starting job. Sam Darnold has regressed to his old ways. He looks like that quarterback that struggled with the New York Jets, and that's not a good sign if you're a Panthers fan or if you the Panthers, because you want a consistent quarterback, and that's something that has hindered the success of Darnold throughout the course of his career, is not being able to be consistent. And I think it's more telling that the running game behind him, led by Christian McCaffrey, has helped him and made him look good at the quarterback position. But I do think Cam Newton has found himself. I think he can thrive with this offense, especially with the coaching there in Carolina. And I think he's on a personal mission to prove to the world that he can still throw the football, that he can still dab, and that he can still be the Cam Newton that we knew him to be.
Yeah. And Joe, I'm going to kind of turn it to you. So kind of like Jonathan said, he comes back to the Panthers. He's great. Do you think the fact that this team really hasn't changed a whole lot? A lot of these guys were pretty much there when he got released. So do you think the fact that he already had chemistry with DJ Moore, with Christian McCaffrey, with pretty much everybody that's on this team, do you think that's kind of helped him in this? And do you think that'll kind of continue to push him as far as, moving forward?
I think what you said is correct. The fact that he has had some success with Christian McCaffrey, with DJ Moore. I think the thing you have to worry about is the Matt Rule system. That's not a system that he ran before. Nate posted underneath that he only played 8 snaps. People forget PJ Walker actually started that game for Carolina and I think he had 25 pass attempts or something close to that. Mm-hmm. Cam Newton was named the starter. Right now, Cam Newton is playing at half speed. We saw even the run-in. He wasn't explosive, Cam. The throw was a 2-yard throw. Robbie Anderson actually made a really good catch. Mm-hmm. The thing that you're going to have to see is right now this Carolina offense is limited. It's limited because Christian McCaffrey isn't fully healthy. He can't do all the Christian McCaffrey things. Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore are wide receivers who've had to deal with subpar quarterback play for most of the season. So it's easy to get downtrodden and kind of upset by it. Cam still has an arm where he can get the ball down the field to somebody like Robbie Anderson, can get it. The area that I think Cam needs the most help in, and it's not something that they can do this year, he doesn't have anybody in like the 8 to 15 yard range. Mm-hmm. Like DJ Moore can run really good routes, but he's more of a down the field guy. Robbie Anderson is a great down the field guy. I mean, Christian McCaffrey can catch the screen passes and out of the backfield. They don't have a tight end. They don't have anybody who's a safety valve that if Cam is scrambling to one side and McCaffrey's on the other, that he can dump it off to. I mean, their tight ends right now are Ian Thomas and Tommy Tremble. Anybody know who they are? Sorry, if you're a Carolina fan, maybe, but I don't know who they are. They're not going to do it. So again, this was a process. This team, I think, was like a 2 to 3 year process of building this team. And then all of a sudden, Cam Newton, because Sam Darnold is out for the year and because PJ Walker's your backup and Matt Barkley is his backup, you look and say, well, Cam, we can help each other out. So they weren't really building this for Cam Newton. And I just think sitting on the couch for so long, he was with New England last year. Obviously, he went into training camp and then was cut, and then he hasn't practiced. We all know there's a difference. They tell you to get into football shape, you need to play football. Well, Cam Newton hasn't played football in a couple months. Yeah. And I'm not sure 8 plays against the depleted Arizona team, most of them goal line packages, is going to get you ready to start. So while I think he can actually have success throughout the rest of the season, this Sunday, I just don't know. I know it's against Rivera. I know it's against a Washington team that just got their biggest win of the year. But I think that Washington team, I was high on them coming into the season. This could be a really bad game for Cam Newton. I mean, I'm talking 3-4 picks, something like that. I think they have some good defensive backs, and I think if Cam is just off a little bit, we know. We watch the NFL every week. The slightest difference in a pass leads to tip balls, leads to interceptions. things of that sort. And I just think Cam Newton is not yet in the rhythmic passing ability because he hasn't done it, and it could be a real struggle this Sunday. But the overall outlook for the year, I think, can be positive.
Yeah. And I kind of agree. And kind of like what you said, the fact that, like Nate also alluded to, he only played 8 snaps. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because, like you said, this is a Matt Rule system. This is the system that he was used to playing in. And I kind of look at it, I don't know if y'all remember from years ago because it was pretty abysmal. Josh Johnson leaving the Buccaneers, going to the Minnesota Vikings to play, I think it was Monday night against the New York Giants. He had literally had like 2 days to learn the playbook, and they said, okay, you're the starting quarterback, go. And that was just an abysmal dumpster fire. And I think that's kind of what Carolina wanted to avoid with Cam is, we know Cam can still do it. He didn't do bad with the Patriots last year, 7-9. He wasn't throwing the ball. He was running it, but that's kind of like what the Patriots like to do. They like that run first option. I think Cam gave them that uniqueness as far as he's a big bodied quarterback that can run it. And I think he ran for 10 touchdowns last year. So, I mean, it's not like he did terrible with the run game. And I think they kept PJ Walker because PJ Walker took a lot of the first team reps, as well as, at this point with Carolina, because Sam Darnold regressed, because, Cam is coming into a new system and you have Matt Barkley, who knows what you got with PJ Walker? Right now, Carolina's just kind of like, what do we do at quarterback? Luckily, they didn't trade a lot as far as getting Darnold goes, so it's not like they're out a first-round pick. But, to me, I don't think it's bad, but kind of like you said, I think Washington is going to be coming in hot on the fact that they were able to beat Tampa Bay. They were able to get a couple picks on Tom Brady, the fact that they beat them and they were at home. And now Ron Rivera gets to face his old team once again against a Cam Newton that, it's kind of one of those like, we've seen with a few of these games. These teams get really, really hyped up and they're like, all right, we can do this. We got this. And then it's kind of like they get in their own way, like, oh, it's the football team. They're 32nd, like in total defense. Like this defense is abysmal.
You mean like Miami versus Baltimore on Thursday night?
Mm-hmm. You're
Jonathan,
muted.
I think you're muted, bud.
Yep.
Juan Rivera also.
Or like New England versus Atlanta.
He just randomly comes in. Ron Rivera knows how to plan for Cam Newton. He's very familiar with his game. He understands, what he does on the field. So I think they'll be ready for him come Sunday. It won't be easy. It's going to definitely be a struggle, like you both alluded to. And if he does get pressured and he's forced to get rid of the football, that can lead to a lot of turnovers, and it could turn into a disaster for him on Sunday.
I'm more interested because this is their 10th game?
Yes.
This their 10th game?
Is this week 10? Yeah.
I'm much more interested in their last 3 games than I am their next 3 games.
Okay.
I think once you get those games underneath Cam Newton, once he learns the offense a little bit more, once there's some familiarity, I'm more interested to see how he goes into next year because they've talked about him possibly coming back as the starter in 2022. What he looks like those last 3 games as opposed to the first 3 games. That's what I'm most interested in.
That's fair. All righty. So we'll move into the next one because I think this Sunday actually has a lot of really good games that are actually scheduled to be matched up. Probably the biggest one, and thankfully Freddie's not here because Freddie would not be a big fan of it. I want to talk about Dallas versus the Chiefs, which is supposed to be, the biggest game of this weekend is supposed to be that. And unfortunately, as a Cowboys fan, found out that Amari Cooper is on the COVID list, so Amari Cooper will not be able to play on Sunday.
Or Thursday.
Right, or Thursday, which kind of sucks. Wait, he won't play Thursday? Is he not vaccinated?
It came out today that he is, in fact, not vaccinated, and he will miss the Thursday game also.
Okay. So to you guys, Dallas will still have CeeDee Lamb. They'll still have Michael Gallup, who's come back from injury. The Kansas City Chiefs look like they finally refound themselves, at least against the Vegas Raiders. But we'll kind of take that for what it's worth. Mm-hmm. To you guys, who do you see as far as getting the win this weekend with Dallas versus Kansas City?
Jonathan, you want to go first, or however you want to do, sir?
Sure. I'll go first. Well, the Cowboys are walking into a heavyweight battle. They're playing against a very good team, with a very good offense. I mean, this team is loaded with offensive firepower. So I mean, I have the Cowboys getting the win only because their defense is better than the Chiefs' defense. The Chiefs don't really have a good defense. Their defense has been suspect. But here's a fun fact for you guys. When Patrick Mahomes takes care of the football, the Kansas City Chiefs are nearly unbeatable. So I think it all depends on how well Patrick Mahomes plays. Now, I know he's kind of been up and down this season, but if he plays well, the Chiefs have a great chance of winning the ball game. But I think the Cowboys are a better team because they're more balanced than the Chiefs when you look at them on both sides. So I mean, you're without Amari Cooper. You're down 2 defensive players. I think Randy Gregory is
out. Yep.
And
he's out.
DeMarcus is out.
Yep,
so
DeMarcus Lawrence.
You got a few guys that's missing defensively, but the Cowboys like to put up points too, and they have the running game, they have the receivers, and that's why I'm going with them to win the game because I just don't think the Chiefs defense. I don't trust the Chiefs defense enough to make those critical stops needed to win the game.
Joe, what do you think?
Jonathan, I respect everything you said there. I hate to tell you you're wrong. This game is going to come down to adjustments, and it's 2 head coaches who have questionable adjustments at times. Andy Reid, we've seen with his timeouts, with his challenges, things of that sort. Sometimes when the Chiefs' offense gets bottled up, we see him not really find a way to dig themselves out. Mike McCarthy in Dallas, we've absolutely seen questionable decisions when it comes to clock management, when it comes to scheming. Sometimes when they're running the ball well, they don't run it enough. Sometimes I think they force the pass a little too much. But to me, Kansas City should win this game. The reason I say this is now, especially with CeeDee Lamb out, Amari Cooper is somebody who I personally think is the most overrated wide receiver in the game. He's the most overpaid wide receiver in the game. There's no reason they should have given him $20 million a year. If I'm Kansas City, the one thing that I'm doing is I'm putting hands on Amari Cooper. He is one of the crispest route runners in the league, undoubtedly. You need to get hands on him because right now, with CeeDee Lamb out, you don't have to worry about that speed over the top as much as you would normally. And I think if you get a guy like Matthew and put him on him once in a while and just hit him at the line, offset him, because when he has a free release and he's able to get open on those slants, on those double moves, things of that sort, he is dangerous.
Well, I think you got it twisted. So Amari is out, so you don't have as good of a route runner. You have a good deep threat in Gallup.
I'm sorry. No,
you have Lamb as the speedster.
As Lamb, I'm sorry. Jeez, man, my head is we just talked about that. No, but yeah, with CeeDee Lamb, the speedster, you put hands on him too. Mm-hmm. You get him off. You just don't let him, because he's shown, especially from the slot, which I think now he goes back to the outside to match up with Gallup to do that. The other thing that I'm concerned about is Kansas City's offense is built perfect to abuse somebody like Trayvon Diggs. Yep. He falls for the double moves. He falls for we saw it in the New England game. We saw it in the Denver game. And he does it against inferior receivers. Well, I hate to tell you this, Mecole Hardman is an inferior receiver, but if they put him on Mecole Hardman instead of, if they double Tyreek, Hardman is fast enough that if he gets one of those double moves, he's going to blow by Diggs. And Micah Parsons is somebody who obviously needs to be accounted for at all times. I think something that they've done is move him around a lot the last couple of weeks. Tony, you could probably speak to that more than I could with being a Dallas fan. Mm-hmm. But I think the Kansas City offense, the thing that they need to try and do, whether it works or not, they have to try and run the ball. They have to try and control the clock, because Dallas, when they get on the field and their offense gets more opportunities, eventually they break through. The reason they couldn't do it against Denver is because Denver ran for 190 yards and was able to control the ball. The reason they're able to do it against Atlanta is because Atlanta couldn't do anything on offense. So Dallas just had the ball, and the more opportunities you get, the more chances they're going to get to run that offense.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, as a Dallas fan watching, there's a big thing with Dallas that they always do. Dallas likes to score early. Dallas likes to be able to have control over that. If they can go down and get a touchdown, the Chiefs can match, that's fine, but Dallas will 100%, as long as they can score and move the ball, Dallas is all about it. And they will.
And if that's the case, the fear is this. That would force Mahomes and the rest of the offense to play catch up. Yep. And usually when Patrick Mahomes has to play from behind, it doesn't end too well for Kansas City.
Well, it's funny.
Makes a lot of mistakes and turn over the football.
And it's funny you say that, because Dak is the exact same way. If Dallas has to play catch up,
that's true.
Dak
plays this is going to be an interesting game. This is going to be an interesting game, and it's definitely a must watch for me. It's definitely one I want to watch on Sunday.
So my prediction for this is whoever loses this game, I think they're going to score 40 plus.
Yeah. I get why you would say that. I don't think it happens, just because 40 is a lot. Because that way you're saying the other team's at least going to score 41.
Yep.
You
think about it, because like you said with Diggs falls for the double moves. You have Tyreek Hill as a speedster. Micah Parsons is going to be around everywhere, but what do they like to have Micah Parsons do more than anything? They like to have him rush the quarterback, because their pass rushers are not the greatest, and because they're missing Gregory. They also like to have Gregory inside the box as far as being in the middle, because they're so much smaller on defensive tackles. Their defensive tackles aren't getting any type of penetration. So you have Randy Gregory and Micah Parsons both coming into that middle to be able to disrupt the quarterback, which with Mahomes – this year, we've seen kind of hit and miss on how that's going to work. Right. But then when you do that, as a Dallas fan, when I first saw Leighton Vander Esch, I liked his coverage ability. Between him and Smith, they were fantastic. I've noticed the last couple of years, Vander Esch has fallen off in his ability to cover. Now when you do that, Leighton is going to get beat by Travis Kelce, which, even normally Travis Kelce is another weapon that you almost always have to account for. And like you said, then you have McCole Hardman, who, if anything, he kind of reminds me a little bit of a Dez Bryant in the fact of he will just run straight and he will get the ball, and that's really all you have to do. So I could see the 40 points, but I could maybe more realistically see like in the 30s, and I say that because at least with Dallas, their big thing is I think they're going to be a little bit more successful in running the ball. The big question is will that offensive line be able to contain Chris Jones? Will they be able to contain Melvin Ingram? And what is Kansas City secondary going to be like? Because if Dallas isn't able to start running the ball with Zeke and Pollard to some effect, like getting a couple first downs, because we've seen the last couple games, Dallas has not been able to run the ball very effectively. They didn't run it super well against Atlanta. They didn't run it. They didn't hardly run it successfully at all against Denver. And even the game before Denver, it's not like Dallas did really well as far as running it. So last few weeks, they've kind of started to mellow out with that, and they've had to rely more on the passing game.
And this week, they could be more successful in that area. Dak can go through the air in this game. The Chiefs, to me, I just don't know about their defense. The defense gave up a total of 104 points in 3 games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, that's a lot of points to give up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you could easily disrespect this defense and just air it out all day long.
And don't forget, too, it's in Kansas City, and Kansas City's known for being crazy loud and just crazy in general.
Tough place to play.
And the weather, too. We don't know what the weather's going to be like. Kansas City, you could get 25 to 30 mile an hour winds. You could get rain. You could get snow. You could get all kinds of stuff. The two things I'd like to see the Chiefs do to try and take a little bit advantage of Leighton Vander Esch and a young Micah Parsons, a lot of draws and a lot of inside screens. I think you're going to see outside screens like you always do to Kelce and Hill and guys like that. I'd like to see draw screens. I'd like to see him kind of bring the pass rushers from the outside, Micah Parsons coming from the outside, Leighton Vander Esch dropping back with Travis Kelce and trying to take advantage of that Dallas defense more in the middle of the field with those plays. I think sometimes when you just when you're a bad team or a bad running team and you try and line up and run the ball, it doesn't work because they know you're not very good. But if you run draws and make it look like a pass play, if you run those short screens, which are basically just extensions of the run game, then it helps kind of lax that up a little bit. So I think whether it's Bieniemy or Reed, I think it'd be interesting to see them run some of those plays.
Well, and to be honest with you, that's if you've ever noticed a lot of teams that typically have success against Dallas, it's teams that run a lot of screen plays, which has always been Dallas's Achilles heel for the last 10 plus years.
Which is what New England did to almost beat them. A lot of screen plays, a lot of success with that.
Yep. And that's part of why when I was watching it, I was like, this is Dallas's game to lose with how they're playing. Another game I want to talk about real quick because I heard a statistic earlier and it's actually really interesting. So we have Green Bay versus Minnesota for the first time this year. And so Aaron is going up against Kirk Cousins. Did you guys know that Kirk Cousins is 3-3-1 against Aaron Rodgers in his career? So, yeah, which is extremely surprising. So to you guys, do you think that if Minnesota is able to get the win, that is going to kind of secure them being able to secure one of those wild card spots for the playoffs?
Minnesota was one of the teams I was most interested in going into the season. I loved their offense. I loved what they did in the draft with addressing the offensive line with Christian Darrisaw. And then I can't think of his name, the guard from Ohio State. Wyatt Davis, I think, in the third or fourth round. Again, with Dalvin Cook running the ball, with Thielen, with Jefferson, with all this stuff. Cousins is what he is as a quarterback. Zimmer's had a lot of success versus Rodgers too in trying to stifle him. He's talked about the respect he has for Zimmer because of the game plan they come up with. Harrison Smith is off the COVID list. He will presumably be back for this game, which is a huge asset for them, especially knowing Green Bay is going to be without Aaron Jones. I think if Minnesota is able to win this game, I think it absolutely puts them in the position. Don't forget, just this past weekend, Atlanta had the 7th spot, and we saw what Atlanta was. I mean, that last spot, at least the last spot in the NFC, is going to be up for grabs with some teams who are going to be teams people look at with side eyes and be like, oh, what, really? They're a playoff team? Well, somebody's got to get in. I mean, they beat the Chargers last weekend on the road. So, I mean, go from there how you will. But I think Minnesota has a real chance in this game. And again, 1 week doesn't make a season. But with Rodgers coming off the COVID list, we saw them put up 17 points against what I think is a pretty bad Seattle team in general. So traveling on the road, division rival, they're getting their arguably best defensive player back, and that offense seems to be progressing in the right direction. Yeah, I think Minnesota, this could be the turnaround for their season.
Yeah, I'd agree with that because, I mean, like you said, they faced a really bad Seattle team, and it's not like Aaron Rodgers was hot-handed against what I thought he would be with Seattle. You know, he threw an interception. He didn't throw a single touchdown. I think he didn't even touch through the 300-yard mark as far as passing goes. And then, they lose one of their top running backs. I agree with the Minnesota being one of the most interesting. You had Adam Thielen. You have Justin Jefferson. They even got D.D. Westbrook from the Jags in free agency, which I thought was going to be – I thought they were going to utilize him a little bit more than what they have this year because I thought he was a great addition to that slot receiver role. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like they're using him in that way. Yeah. I think with me, Minnesota has been so up and down because they lost the first couple games, which that happens. They're trying to get used to everything, dusting everything off. Then they beat Russell Wilson in Seattle, which was kind of surprising. Mm-hmm. And then they go and they lose 14-7 to Cleveland, and then they get beat by. They get beat by a Cowboys team, which even as a Cowboys fan, y'all should not have lost to us and a backup quarterback that has pretty much never played a legitimate snap in a real game. You let him throw up 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. That should not have happened in the slightest. And then you take Baltimore all the way into overtime and you lose, which okay, that's a little bit more respectable. And then you go and you beat a kind of the same thing, kind of a roller coaster of a Chargers team. So to me, Minnesota is just so and I kind of agree with Nate. I could see Minnesota getting the upset because it is in Minneapolis. But at the same time, Minnesota is just one of those, I don't trust them enough to do it. Like I see them finishing like 10-7, maybe. More realistically, I see them finishing like 9-8. But I don't know. And I hate to say it because I don't like Aaron Rodgers or the Packers at all.
They're
But I do.
they're 4-5 with a plus 10-point differential, which tells you the kind of crazy close games they've been in. They have a losing record and they've scored more points than they've given up.
Yeah. What up, Coach?
Right, that's
Appreciate
true.
you being able to watch. But yeah, I don't know. This is one of those I can almost see Minnesota kind of doing like what Chicago did as far as making it really tough for Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers both.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it is. It's very complicated.
It's very complicated. The Minnesota Vikings, they look good in some games, and then other games they disappear. You don't know what you're gonna get from the Vikings. But look, let's talk about what the Vikings have done lately, because the NFL is a what have you done for me lately league, right? So let's talk about what the Vikings have done. They snapped a 2-game losing streak with a 27-20 road victory over the Chargers last week. And they harassed Justin Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
They made it a miserable afternoon for him. He was held. The offense was held to 20 first downs and 253 yards of offense total. And this victory is a confidence booster for the Vikings. The Vikings still have guys that can play. They have Dalvin Cook, a sensational running back. You have Adam Thielen, who's a great wide receiver. So they got guys, but they got a quarterback who's a game manager, who has those moments. He's gonna have a few magical moments. That's who Kirk Cousins is. He reminds you of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Those guys have magical moments, and then they have games that's great, and then they have other games that's not so great. And that's what you get from a guy like Kirk Cousins. But it's absolutely amazing to me how good he's been against Aaron Rodgers. So this game coming up this week is huge. You got to remember too, the Vikings are going to play harder because they're playing against a rival team. This is a big rivalry game. So the Vikings are going to play harder. So yes, they could come away with a win. And remember, it's any given Sunday.
Yep.
The Minnesota Vikings, to use an analogy, because I am very annoying with my analogies, they're a Toyota Corolla. They're a car. They're not the nicest car. They're not a beater car. Right. You're going to get frustrated because you're going to have to replace a few things, and maybe the turn signal will stop working for a while. But all in all, they're going to get you where they need to. And that reminds me right there of what the Vikings are. They're not the most dependable vehicle on the road, but they're something that you can trust most of the time, and they're going to frustrate you at other times.
I like that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. All right, Jen. So let's kind of move into some NBA topics. And again, Freddie's not here, so even though I feel like once we start talking about this, Freddie will magically appear. Do you guys think that with LeBron James coming back now, do you think that is going to basically be the difference maker for the Lakers? Because right now they're losing 92-103 with a little over 8 minutes left in the fourth.
Yeah, so the game's not over, but yeah.
It's not by any means. Yeah. Do you think that with LeBron now, the Lakers are finally going to be able to turn everything around and at least get up to maybe the 4th or 5th seed in the West? Or do you think that there's still more underlying issues in what the Lakers need to do? Jonathan, since you're our resident Lakers fan and you are also objective much to Freddie's dismay, and much to most of our fans' dismay, because they don't believe that you're actually a Lakers fan, even though you are. What do you think with the Lakers? Does LeBron make or break them, or no?
LeBron makes them and breaks them. Look, LeBron is a big piece for the Lakers. He's vital to that offense. Without him, you're not winning any championships. Without Anthony Davis, you're not winning any championships. But you need LeBron on the floor. Now, does that change everything? Absolutely. The Lakers were playing with a different type of energy tonight. You could see it. With him back on the floor, the Lakers look like a different team. The problem with the Lakers, though, with LeBron being on the floor, is that the Lakers get a lead, they get complacent, they lose the lead. And we saw that again tonight. I'm not sure how much LeBron presence helps, even though it makes a slight difference with him being back in the lineup. But it's not going to magically just make this team all of a sudden a championship contender. It's not going to do that. You have Russell Westbrook out there, guys, and I think that's the problem. That's the thing that's holding them back. That's the one player that's holding the Lakers back is Russell Westbrook being on the floor, because it is showing that he's not the right fit for this team. You have two ball dominant players, LeBron James and Russell Westbrook.
You have three, yeah. Jonathan. You have three.
Anthony Davis.
And really, doesn't the guy need shots?
He needs touches as well.
So you really have three ball dominant guys,
right? And I just don't think the chemistry's there, guys. So I don't think LeBron really makes that much of a difference, even though it helps with his presence being on the floor.
Do you make it or?
Yeah, you can go
for it.
Okay. Again, I brought it up the other night. There was like 7 of us on, so I don't know how much anybody heard. But to me, there's certain guys who are just like, they're superheroes. They're the top of the top. They're the actual superstars in the league. To me, there's only a handful of them. By a handful, I mean no more than 5. And Russell Westbrook is not a superstar, in my opinion. He is a star that people know. Superstars are the top echelon of what I think in any league of what they are. The difference is Russell Westbrook thinks that he's Batman, but he's Robin. And he can't look himself in the mirror and not see the bat suit on. And that's the biggest issue. And when you play with other players, the Buddy Hield trade, which has been talked about, made the most basketball sense when you're looking at a team. The problem is, and this is a problem that comes down to not just the Lakers, but other teams have had this problem, and not just LeBron James, because other players have had this problem. It's about player empowerment versus team success. And sometimes they work, but most of the time they don't. And I'll give you a perfect example about a player who's on the Lakers currently. It's Carmelo Anthony. When he was in Denver, everybody knew he was going to the Knicks, but he couldn't be patient, and the Knicks couldn't be patient. So instead of waiting to have cap space, to have contracts to trade, to have draft picks to build around Melo, they had to get in a big damn hurry and trade everything away from Melo. And then people say, well, Melo had no help in New York. It's because the team didn't build the way that they've been setting up to build the whole time. And Carmelo wanted to go to a situation that was better, but he had to make the team worse to go there. So again, this isn't the first time we've seen it where players control how a team is built and have it blow up in their face. The difference is LeBron James is one of the 3 most recognizable athletes in the Western Hemisphere, and everything gets laid at his feet. None of these moves get made without him. I would much rather have a Buddy Hield on this team that even if let's say he doesn't work out, if he just, I think right now he's shooting like 47% or some ridiculous number on threes. Let's say he's not doing that in LA. What do you think is easier to trade? Buddy Hield for another contract or Russell Westbrook? Jonathan, you're a Lakers fan. Who are you going to be able to flip for somebody? Would you rather be able to trade Buddy Hield and a pick for a veteran that you think will fit, or Russell Westbrook, who you couldn't give enough first-round picks attached to get rid of right now? Yeah, would Sacramento take Russell Westbrook for Buddy Hield and whatever contracts he used to fill it in? No. Hell no, they ain't taking them.
They're really gold.
They might, because think about it. Sacramento's kind of in one of those positions. You gotta have a big star there. If they want to bring in other people, they gotta have a big
De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield. How many first rounders the Lakers got to give up? Is it just going to be named the Sacramento Kings Stadium of the LA Lakers? Is that what they're going to have to pay to get it?
Yep. Yeah, and I kind of agree with you, because and Freddie, Freddie's a little blinded at times by the purple and gold. I promise. For everybody watching, I really do love Freddie. I really do. But to me, I didn't like really many of these moves because, like, kind of like what Jonathan's alluded to, LeBron makes the team better because it is LeBron. You always have to account for LeBron. And it doesn't matter how old LeBron gets, LeBron can still go do LeBron things when he wants to. He doesn't do them as often, but he can.
Right.
And when you have a guy like LeBron James who he can take over the game, now he's trying to do kind of that more game manager role of like,
he
hey,
wants to take over.
Yes. He's like, hey, you do this, and you do this. But then you have guys, and I think AD is obviously more inclined to listen because he's seen the fruits of, hey, when I listen to LeBron and when other people listen to LeBron, we get a ring. Russ hasn't seen it, and Russ continues to kind of do his own thing, much like Joe alluded to. Mm-hmm. Russ is Robin, LeBron is Batman. Russ, you are not Batman. Stop trying to be Batman. And I think Russ is trying to do too much. Now, he think
doesn't compliment the team at all. He really
doesn't
compliment anybody.
And I would make that same argument too for Carmelo Anthony. I think these are all big stars that not only are most of them older, whether Freddie wants to admit all of them have their own AARP card or not. These are all older guys that, 5-6 years ago, they're the number one person on their respective teams. Russ was the dude in OKC for the longest time, even with Kevin Durant and James Harden both there. Russ was the guy that made everything go. Carmelo Anthony was the dude even in Denver, and then he went to the Knicks. He was still the guy. LeBron was the guy in Cleveland and Miami. So when you put all of these types of guys together, now you guys aren't the number one. LeBron is supposed to be the number one, or AD is supposed to be the number one. You guys all fall in line, and I think the Lakers are starting to see that you have all of these personalities, all of these, number one caliber players in their mind, and they're not able to do anything with it. So I don't know how much the Lakers really kind of revive their season. I know it's still early. There's still a possibility.
I don't know if it's salvageable at this point. I know it's still early, but if they keep playing at this rate, they're not really going to get anywhere. I mean, this is alarming what we're seeing. Like loss after loss, and they're not able to put together any quality wins. And Frank Vogel's a big part of the reason why they're struggling as well. His rotations. Yeah. Rotations are baffling. They're questionable. And I mean, you should never have Russell Westbrook and Rajon Rondo on the floor at the same time. Mm-hmm. And then you're not utilizing your players correctly. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know at this point.
I think every NBA team should have 2 or 3 guys that every time they hit the floor, you're like, who is that? I'm not sure who that is. The problem with the Lakers is everybody who comes onto the floor, you're like, oh, I know who that is. So they have this like preconceived identity in the fans, in the eyes of fans and people who watch the game. And they're kind of like, well, they need to live up to that. Like, I actually like some of their moves. I think getting somebody like Malik Monk, who is an undervalued asset, it's like, okay, put that guy at the end of the bench. He's going to come in, a couple minutes, a game or a couple minutes a quarter and see what he can do. Like, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Again, like the Rondo signing, you joked about the AARP cards, but when is the last time in any professional sport outside of football and the 44-year-old quarterback that somebody who's in year 18, 19 was dependent on to be the primary number one decision maker and number 2 glue guy? Yeah. It doesn't. I mean, that's Udonis Haslem. Like when people talk about a glue guy, I mean, it's Udonis Haslem who's playing 2 minutes a game and like hasn't attempted a shot in 4 years. It's not LeBron James.
And I'll be honest with you too. To me, if I was a Lakers fan, I would be partially upset too, because look at everything you gave up to just go get Russ. Look at how well the Wizards. Because me personally, I think the Wizards won out of everybody with that. Yeah. They got rid of the Russ contract. They got all the players in return. They got the picks,
and they didn't have to trade Beal.
Yeah, and they didn't have to trade Bradley Beal. They still haven't. So it's like for the Lakers, it's like you you have a couple young guys there, like you have the pieces. You'll still have AD probably if he can stay healthy. But really, you've given up everything. It's like to me, this was almost like a desperation thing. Like, we need to put all of our chips in the pot right now. We need to go all out and get another ring. And we're going to do it with a bunch of veteran guys that have been established. But really, look at all the guys that they brought in. How many of them won a ring? None of them.
Right.
None of them.
They're
Rondo,
old,
that's it.
and I don't know.
I have a question for you, Jonathan, because I've been somebody who's been really critical of Anthony Davis. I don't think he's a superstar. Right now, if you had to trade, would you trade Anthony Davis or would you trade Russell Westbrook?
I would trade Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think that you would get?
For two reasons, though.
Go ahead.
For two reasons. Here's one reason: Russell Westbrook is already old, and secondly, he throws off chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody's going to take Russell Westbrook's contract either. Nobody else is going to absorb that.
So in that and that's
put themselves in a situation.
You're right. But that's also part of the reason I would say Anthony Davis. I think you could actually get more pieces around that you could bring players in who could help you compete and be a championship team. Because I'm sorry, Anthony Davis, to me, he doesn't have it. He doesn't, like, a guy that's that big. All I keep hearing is, oh, he was a point guard and he was so good and his handles. And listen, you can have all the physical tools in the world, but if you don't have it in here, you just don't have it. And I'm not sure that Anthony Davis, like, everybody talked about, oh, LeBron's going to mold him and he's going to take over and he's going to be the number one guy. Anthony Davis has been the number one guy on some mediocre to really bad teams, not championship level teams. And the only way that he played at the top of his game is when he knew he had LeBron James standing right next to him. I just don't think he's a guy who can carry a franchise.
He has the physical tools, but the reason why he can't carry a franchise is because he still has yet to show whether or not he can stay healthy for a full season.
Mm-hmm.
But my question is, who does Anthony Davis make better? Because we argue LeBron James makes everybody around him better. We could even argue at times Russell Westbrook, when in the right offense, has made players around him better. When's the last time that we talked about Anthony Davis making the players around him better? Haven't we all, like, when him and Boogie Cousins were together?
We don't really.
We don't. Yeah, the only person I could maybe see would be Boogie, because honestly, if you look, Boogie, and part of it is because Boogie keeps getting hurt. You know, when was the last time Boogie Cousins was really, Boogie Cousins? It was when he was
more of a scorer.
Yeah,
but I'm saying, he's a big man who looks intimidating because of his size and his ability to shoot and get to the basket, and even get some blocks here and there.
I mean, I'm a Pacers fan. Wouldn't you like it if Anthony Davis had a little bit of Miles Turner's attitude?
I would like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, isn't
I would
like
that would make him an all-around better player if he had that kind of attitude.
I hate the fact, and we see it with like Porzingis, we see it with these 7-footers. If you're a 7-footer who A, refuses to go down in the block, and B, doesn't get some defensive fouls by absolutely just swatting at guys down around the rim, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. All right, gents. Well, I think that's pretty much going to be our last topic, because Jonathan is going to be on next with Fast Break, talk a little bit more basketball. So I don't know if Joe is I don't know if Joe, if you want to talk some more basketball with Jonathan or not. But this has been another episode of Just Say the Truth. Thank you all for joining us, and I'm pretty sure we're still doing it just like we did last time. For our viewer of the month, get a free t-shirt, which Jonathan and I, neither one have, and I don't think Joe does either. You can buy them on the ASAP.
I'm busy buying graphic tees like these.
Right, I know. Can't be as good. But again, thank you all for watching. Please follow us. Please subscribe. Let your friends know. Share every chance that you get. We've enjoyed having y'all. Thank you again to Joe for joining us on Just Say the Truth. It has been a blast with you, sir, because I've spent the last couple hours with you, and it has been a blast talking sports with you.
It's always fun, and I can't wait to be back.
Always a pleasure, Joe, and always a pleasure, Tony.
Hey, enjoy that nice cold weather out in L.A.
Oh, yes.
Make sure
our kind of cold, right? The Cali type of cold.
Yeah, make sure you throw on a winter jacket for us. We don't want you to freeze.
He does. Look at all those shoes in the background. He doesn't have the money for a winter jacket.
All right, y'all. This has been another episode of Just Say the Truth. We will see y'all next week.
Bye-bye.
Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays.